Japan's origins are unlike those of any other ancient civilization, where others trace their lineage to warriors or kings. Japan traced its beginning to the gods themselves. According to the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, the islands were created by divine beings. And from the sun goddess Amaterasu came the imperial bloodline, a family believed to rule not by conquest, but by cosmic destiny. This divine claim wasn't just spiritual. It was political armor. It gave the early Yamato rulers a legitimacy no rival clan could challenge openly. By the 3rd century CE, the Yamato clan had risen above all others. Through alliances, warfare, and diplomacy, they unified the early tribes of the archipelago. Japan had its first central authority, fragile, young, but ambitious. Yet even in these early days, the seeds of conflict were already planted. Clans that bowed to the emperor still held their own armies, their own lands, and their own ambitions. Ancient Japan was born unified, but unity would never come easily. As centuries passed, Japan entered the Heian period, a golden age of culture and refinement. The capital, Heian-kyo, modern Kyoto, became a world unlike anything else in Asia. Nobles lived in sprawling mansions connected by covered walkways. Poetry competitions decided social status. Romantic affairs were conducted through handwritten letters scented with incense. The world's first psychological novel, The Tale of Genji, was written here. But beneath the elegance, the imperial court was drifting further and further from reality. While nobles debated fashion and poetry, the countryside was slipping out of their control. Local clans were growing stronger. Banditry was rising, and the emperor's authority was becoming symbolic rather than practical. The Heian court was beautiful, but beauty cannot hold a nation together. As the imperial court weakened, the provinces turned to a new kind of protector, the samurai. These warriors were originally hired to defend estates and enforce order. But over generations, they became a distinct class, disciplined, loyal, and deadly. Two clans rose above all others, the Taira and the Minamoto. Their rivalry simmered for decades until it finally erupted into the Genpei War, a conflict that would decide the fate of Japan. Battles raged across the islands. Samurai fought on horseback, swords in close combat, and a code of honor that demanded bravery even in defeat. The war ended in 1185 at the Battle of Dan-no-Ura, where the Minamoto crushed the Taira in a dramatic naval clash. The emperor remained on the throne, but he no longer ruled. Minamoto no Yoritomo became Japan's first shogun, establishing the Kamakura Shogunate. Japan had entered the age of military rule. Under the Kamakura Shogunate, Japan faced a threat unlike anything in its history, the Mongol Empire. Kublai Khan demanded Japan's submission. Japan refused. In 1274, the Mongols invaded with a massive fleet. Their tactics were unlike anything the samurai had ever seen. Coordinated infantry, explosive projectiles, and overwhelming numbers. But then, a storm struck. The Mongol fleet was destroyed. 7 years later, they tried again. This time, the Japanese were ready. Samurai fought fiercely along the beaches of Kyushu. And once again, a massive storm obliterated the Mongol ships. The Japanese called these storms kamikaze, the divine winds. Japan had survived the greatest military machine on earth. But victory came at a cost. The shogunate had spent enormous resources preparing for invasions that brought no new land, no new wealth, and no rewards for the samurai who fought. Discontent grew. The shogunate weakened, and ambitious rivals began to circle. In 1333, the Kamakura Shogunate collapsed under rebellion. A new shogun, Ashikaga Takagi, seized power and established the Ashikaga Shogunate. But unlike the Kamakura rulers, the Ashikaga lacked strong central control. Their authority was constantly challenged by rival clans, rebellious generals, and even the emperor himself. Japan split into two competing imperial courts, the northern and southern courts, each claiming legitimacy. Civil war became a constant presence. The Ashikaga era was one of cultural brilliance, the rise of Zen Buddhism, tea ceremony, no theater, and ink painting. But politically, it was unstable, fragile, and often chaotic. By the 1400s, the shogunate's power had nearly evaporated. Regional lords, the daimyo, ruled their territories like independent kingdoms. Japan was drifting towards something far worse than civil war. It was drifting toward fragmentation. In 1467, the Onin War erupted, a conflict so destructive that it shattered what remained of central authority. This was the beginning of the Sengoku period, the age of warring states. For over a century, Japan was a patchwork of rival domains. Daimyo built massive castles, raised armies, and fought endless battles for land and power. Alliances shifted constantly. Assassinations were common. Entire clans rose and fell in a single generation. This was the death of ancient Japan, the final collapse of the old imperial and aristocratic order. But from the chaos, new giants emerged. Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Tokugawa Ieyasu. These three warlords would eventually reunify Japan, but their rise marked the end of the ancient world. The age of myth, poetry, and early samurai tradition had fallen. A new Japan, disciplined, centralized, and tightly controlled, was about to rise.